hand you over to Iain Smith, who's going to talk to you about time management.
Hi everyone. Whoops, there we go. Hi, thank you Hilary, thank you for inviting me here today, and hello to you all. Yes, time management for teachers and anyone who works in education. What I'm going to do is share with you as many different strategies in the time that we've got as I possibly can, because there's two ways of approaching time management. Either you talk about a couple of concepts and go into detail about the theory behind it and how it can work at a deep level, or you share as many great ideas that are going to help you in the real world as possible. So that's what we'll do today, the second one. And if you're listening to an idea and thinking, oh, I don't think that will necessarily work for me, don't worry, because in about a minute later there'll be another one, and that might well help you anyway. Okay, so who am I? My name is Iain Smith from the cunningly named Iain Smith Coaching. I support anyone working in education, and my background, I think it will help you to know, was as a teacher. This is a picture of me at my first teaching post when I was the tender age of 19, and I was a volunteer teacher in Tanzania, East Africa. This is me with two of my students, and well, you can probably see what else. One of the rather regular intruders that we got, I think that's a black mamba. We also used to get spitting cobras coming into the classroom. And that's when I became aware that time is relative, because the speed that we all vacated that classroom made me understand something about how quickly you can move when you need to. So let's start. Time is also democratic. Now, I learned this a lot later. And you might actually be thinking, well, hold on, this is a rather basic, obvious point. Time is the same for everyone. And it is a very basic point, but it's a basic point that we often seem not to grasp somehow. We seem to forget it. Because have you ever heard yourself saying, I wish I had more time? Or have you ever said that, Hilary? You know,
all the time.
Yeah, I wish there was another hour in the day, or another day in the week. And what we're actually saying there is that, well, hold on, the system's wrong. This 24-hour-a-day thing isn't working. Do you know what? If there were 25 hours in the day, then I would function much better. Thank you very much. And it's not the case. There are only 24, and it's the same for you, it's the same for me, it's the same for your Aunt Ethel, and it's the same for the guy in the picture there. And I think we'd probably agree that he has got more on his to-do list than any of us have got on ours. He may have people helping him, I've no idea, but it's the same 24 hours that we've got. So the question that we need to be asking ourselves isn't how can I get an extra hour in the day? It's how can I use the time that I've got better? And hopefully the things I'm going to share with you now will help you to do that. So, where to start? Well, we need to capture everything. You need to have a really clear idea of everything that you need to do, and you need to be able to just take a good look at that snapshot, wherever it is, and understand precisely what it is you've got to do. And very simply, we're talking there about a to-do list. Some people have their to-do lists functioning with their diaries or with their calendars. That's fine, but as long as there's one central point where you know everything is. Some people still carry stuff around in your heads. If that's you, please stop doing it and turn to one of these, a to-do list. Here we are. This is a fairly basic one. This was from a middle leader in teaching. And if you look at this, you can see there's a few standard items on the left. But then halfway down the right-hand side, there we go, cakes for the deputy head teacher's 50th birthday. That person had to go out and get those cakes. And that wasn't on her to-do list. But it was still something she had to do. So why wouldn't you actually have that on the to-do list? Once you've got everything in the same place, in the right place, what you can do then is you can prioritize it clearly. And then once you've prioritized it, you can schedule it. So this is a plea to go and start using to-do lists if you aren't already. How do we use them then? Okay, well, one simple thing is to, at the end of the day, we often just turn everything off and think, right, phew, got through another day, I'm off, I'm out of here. And I want you to stop doing that if that's you, and I want you to stop 10 minutes earlier and take that extra 10 minutes to prep for the next day. Have a look at your to-do list and think, what am I going to get done the next day? And then set out the tools, whatever it is that you need in order to get those things done. I mean, setting the table, we're talking there about eating a meal, aren't we? That's just a task that we've got to do. So we get out the tools, the knife, the fork, the spoon, the plate. We need those items in order to attend to that task that we've got of eating. It's the same way. So set the table before the next day starts. In fact, I'm not worried whether you do it the night before. You may well do it the very next day. Take 5 or 10 minutes before you start and dive into it. And when you're setting the table, I'm going to suggest that you choose 3 things to do. 3 things off your to-do list. And at this point, you're looking at the screen thinking, 3 things, Ian? I've got 300 things to do on my to-do list. What on earth are you talking about? I know you have. And even that to-do list we looked at a couple of minutes ago, that's a very truncated one, a short one. I recognize that. The reason for choosing 3 items, though, is that these are the 3 most important items. And these are the 3 items that you must get done and that you commit to. You'll get them done. And then you'll know that that day has already been a good one. And then, of course, you can carry on with the other things on your to-do list. But if you've got your main 3 priorities ticked, done, out of the way, it's been a good day. So choose them wisely and get them done. All right, what's next? Aha, frogs. So, people love this. Well, because I recommend eating frogs. And people go, what? You eat frogs? Yeah, eating frogs is one of the best time management tips or tricks and techniques that you can use. Some of you are scratching your heads at this point. Okay, there's an old saying that goes something like this. If the first thing you do on a morning is eat a live frog, then you have the satisfaction of knowing that there is nothing else in the rest of the day that's quite as bad. So eating frogs, we're not talking about frogs, of course. We're talking about the unpleasant tasks, the things that you don't want to do, the things that you've been putting off forever. And so, Hilary, what's a frog that you've got? What's the sort of thing that, because I mean, for lots of people, it's a challenging conversation that you've got to have with someone. One of your students has been playing up and you need to make that telephone call.
Well, that's definitely a frog. But I mean, in my world now, my frogs are things like bookkeeping and it's the boring things in life that they need to be done. They're important, but they feel like agony when you're doing them. So everyone's got a frog, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when you're not looking forward to doing it, so you put it off. You say, right, and it just drops down. And that's one of those things that will stay on your to-do list and just stay on there and not get done. And so when you're deciding the 3 items that are on your to-do list, think of them as frogs. Which frogs are sitting on your desk? Imagine the frog is sat there on your desk, staring at you, looking at you. It's not going to go away. And when you eat it, don't mess about. Eat it whole. Take as few bites as possible and get it down. And then it's the wonderful feeling of relief as well when you get them out of the way. What do you do, by the way, if you've got more than 1 frog sat on your desk looking up at you? So you've got 3 frogs there and you're really not looking forward to doing any of them. Well, I'll tell you what you do. What you do is you take the biggest, the ugliest, the slimiest looking frog, and that's the one you tackle first. And you get it out of the way as quickly and effectively as possible. All right. I'm sharing with you a picture of my office, and up in the right-hand corner there is my little frog. And so every day when I sit down in my office to work, that's the first thing that I see. I look up there and think, right, what do I have to do? What am I really not looking forward to doing? And that's my little visual reminder to get that done. Okay. I told you we were going to move through these quickly. If you've got questions, we can go back to any of them at the end, and that's great. But for now, we're going to enter the matrix. And it's not quite as suave and sophisticated and as good-looking as Keanu Reeves, but in some ways it's just as life-awakening. I was at a consortium of head teachers a little while ago, and she said this is revolutionary, the matrix, and I was thinking actually I'm quite used to it, but do you know what? The very first time you come across it, it really can be. So let's have a look at it. Because I mean, all it is this. It's a square divided into 4 with 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's it. But your whole life can fit into this square. Your whole working life can be in this square. So let me show you how. Everything is either not urgent or urgent, important or not important. So in your life, everything that you do fits into one of these things. So the room that Hilary and I are in right now, if, for instance, and heaven forbid that it happened, if a fire broke out, we would just very quickly say goodbye to you all, and we would scarp it. And that's because fire, as a rule, is very important, and the way it acts as well, it's urgent. So a fire here would be a quadrant 1 event, and we would have to deal with it straight away. And there are all sorts of activities that you have in your working day that are quadrant 1 activities. And you have to attend to them straight away. You have to drop everything else. You'll have to leave the quadrant 2 activity that you were doing. So for example, here, on a quadrant 2 activity, well, that could be this webinar. It's hopefully important to you. You're going to get some great ideas from it. But do you know what? It's not urgent. We could have done this last month or a week from now. That's not urgent. Although at 5 to 3 it was starting to get urgent. So you might notice that things in the matrix move. But what else are we talking about here? Things that are quadrant 2 tasks at work. It's the long-term things. It's the planning. It's the detail. It's the looking forward. And in your life, it's things like looking after yourself in terms of what you eat, how you exercise, how you connect with family and friends. So all those are quadrant 2 activities and events. This, quadrant 3, this is sometimes called the quadrant of deceit. So you'll find yourself doing something, and because of the nature of it, you're thinking this is important. Say you've got an exhibition, your college is running an open day, and people are coming around that evening, prospective attendees. So you are working to the last minute to try and get things sorted, and you're busy. You've got loads of wonderful illustrations that you're laminating, and you're laminating like crazy. And then, hold on, if you step back and think about it, it might be the case that those items don't actually need laminating. So you've given yourself a job that appears urgent, but it's not actually important. So that's an area where we can just actually stop and reclaim time to go back to doing quadrant 2 things or quadrant 1 things. Let's touch on quadrant 4, and I'm sure there'll be questions about this quadrant when you come back to me as well. Quadrant 4 for the moment. Gasps! Gasps! He said EastEnders is not important and not urgent. And you might be saying, no, that's not true. I like EastEnders. Do you know what? For me, it's a quadrant 2. I get relaxation from that. It's not urgent, but it nourishes my soul. Okay, that's fine. If that does for you, that is a quadrant 2 for you. But if you were watching endless repeats of endless soaps, I'd say that that was a quadrant 4. Same as this one here, Facebook. I've got friends in New Zealand, and for me and them, Facebook is a wonderful tool. It keeps us connected. But do you know what? For some people, and you know who they are, they're checking their Facebook, 27 times a day? That is when it becomes a quadrant 4 activity. So there is the distinction there is sometimes fine, but you'll know what it is. For me, it's personally match of the day. The first 2 matches are always good. After that, I should just go to bed. Quadrant 4 happens. It creeps up on you. So let's jump. Let's a couple more things to point about this matrix. It's an interesting beast, because you might be doing something in quadrant 2. Say, for example, your tax return, Hilary, will need to be done on the 31st of January, yeah?
Yeah.
Have you done it yet? No.
It's miles away. Delay tactic.
Absolutely. Well, we don't need to do it yet. We don't need to, because it's miles away, and it's quadrant 2, and that's fine. But come the 29th and the 30th of January, all of a sudden, where does it go? So stuff that is in quadrant 2 will move into quadrant 1. And that's the same as well when I was talking about looking after yourself. If you don't look after yourself, you don't want to find yourself in the real life quadrant 1 emergency wards, and you know. So, and if you do spend too much time in quadrant 1, because a lot of people say to me, I haven't got time, I'm too busy to go and do more planning or reflecting, or, you know, for a coaching session. We haven't got time to do that. If you're always in quadrant 1, be very careful that you don't end up in a real life quadrant 4, where you're so shattered at the end of the day, you just come home, dump your bags and crash. Whatever that crashing means to you, it's not effective, you're not looking after yourself. So guess what? You end up going from there back into quadrant 1 because you're not prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's next on here? Here's a question for you. Right, we're going to leave the matrix now. Please, any questions about it? I'm very happy. But we're going to move very quickly on now to a topic that many people struggle with and takes up a disproportionate amount of time. So here's the question. How many emails are in your inbox? Just have a little think. And can we do the hands up thing here? Because how many of you have got more than 20 emails opened and unopened in your inbox? Can you put your hands up if the last time you looked? Can we see that?
I'm going to lower all hands and try and put the hand up. There should be something on your screen where you can put your hand up.
We're being interactive.
Yes. If you can find it, then put your hand up. Okay, if you can't find it, don't worry.
Okay, so I mean, we'll see if you're able to do that in a minute. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tina, very good. I didn't mean to name you out loud there, Tina, but thank you. And I won't mention Daniela either, but that's lovely. That's fantastic. So this is what happens though, and I know of very few people who haven't got jammed inboxes. It's an odd thing, but we have not moved on in the way we use email from when it started 20, 25, 30 years ago. We just open our emails and then don't do anything with them. We just sort of open them and then leave them there, think, oh, I'll get back to that later. The number, by the way, that is the record so far. Oops, sorry, can I move the...
Yeah, go on. Try it now.
There we go. 42,000 from a deputy head teacher up in Kettering, I think. 42,000, and he wondered why his server was quite slow and creaky. Why am I going on about this? Because having all these emails in your inbox slows you down. You might not realize it, but it does. It slows you down. You go to your inbox and immediately you're assaulted by all the different items in there calling for your attention. It slows you down in so many ways. It probably slows your machine and your system down as well. So what I help people to do is to get to an empty inbox, and you can do that. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But first of all, another thing about email, we were talking about how you set the table and how you start your day. Don't start it with email. And when I say start your day, I know that in schools, your day, in terms of approaching emails or anything like that, may well start at 4 o'clock. You know, or it could be 7:30 for you, or it could be you get a free at 1 o'clock, whatever it is. But however, whenever you start your day, start it with one of your 3 tasks that you've already predetermined that you're going to do. When you start by opening your email inbox, you're responding, you're reacting to someone else's requests. And that's often a quadrant 3 activity. You know, it looks urgent because it's there, sat looking at you, but it's something else, something that someone else has asked you to do. Oh, and while we're at it, turn the notifications off. Don't need them. Email's not urgent. Email's hardly ever urgent. If you are using it as an urgent thing, I implore you again to use something else for that model. Email should be, we can use it in batches. You can check it at certain times. Most of the time I check mine from once at 10, once at 2, and then another in the evening. You will of course have a different schedule, but you can still decide when you batch check your emails. Now, this is the good bit. So when you come to your emails, and you know, you use this, people use this phrase, I'm going to go and do my emails. That doesn't make any sense. Email isn't a thing. Email is an electronic envelope for all sorts of different things. It's you know, there's hundreds of things. There's a conversation, a request, a photo sent round, a document. You can't just do all of those things. You need to give a different approach to each of them. Now I'll show you how to do that. So we don't say I'm going to do my email. Ask people to sit down at that required time and say you're going to spend, I don't know, 20 minutes. You've got a window of 20 minutes, so you're going to process your emails in that 20 minutes. And what you do is you use the 4 Ds. They are do it, delegate it, defer it, and ditch it. And I'll go through each of those in turn now. So you sit down, you look at the first email, and I don't really mind which way you do it. Some people like to do it chronologically. Some people go, right, this is first there, or I don't mind, whatever you know floats your boat. But the first thing is the email that you're looking at, can you reply to it? Can you deal with it in 2 minutes or less? If it's just a reply that says, yes, I'd love to, then just do it. If it's going to take 2 minutes or less, do it there and then archive the email. Archive it. Not put it in a folder, not delete it, archive it. Your email system will be set up so that it can handle this much, much better. What about if I can't find it again though? What if I need it later? You know, I hear that a lot. You may well need it later. You haven't lost it, you've archived it. And just think about how you use Google these days. You can find anything you want within about a minute, less. And that, you know, that's probably taking longer. Trust me, you can find your email in your email archive using search terms, using a date range. If you spend 5 minutes learning how to search within your own personal email dump in the archive, you'll be able to find stuff straight away. So don't worry about archiving it, getting into that habit. Let's move on to the second one, which was delegate things. Delegation is a huge topic. We're not talking about all the elements of it here. We're just talking about getting it out of your email inbox. If it's not for you, get it out. Send it to someone, and if there's still a trail in your inbox, archive it. Now this is the good one. This is the main reason that most emails are still in that inbox, even though you've opened it and you've thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. You don't need to do it right there and then. So it's going to happen later. So what do? How do we defer something? Because how are you going to find it again? How are you going to remember to find it? It's a tricky one, isn't it? So there's 2 ways of doing it. What we do is we use our task list, and say there's an email, I need to email Hilary, okay, about the follow-up from the webinar. So rather than having that in my inbox that she's reminded me about, I write that on my to-do list, and then I archive that email. Because of my to-do list, of course, we've touched on those. When it's time, because I'll prioritize and then schedule my to-do list, when it's time for me to do that task, I simply, all right, I've got it there, there's my reminder, I've got to email Hilary. I then go to my email archive, find it, and then do the task. It's dead easy. That's using a paper version, which is fine, and but you can use an electronic version as well. This is what I actually do. I use a digital version, so I use Gmail, and I send that particular email to my electronic task list, which then is there. And when it's time for me to look on that task, I just click on the task, and it pops the email that I needed. Even though I've already archived it, it just pops up again. Do the same thing with the calendar. Send it to your calendar so that it just pops up onto your electronic diary, or print it out and staple it into your diary, or just simply write it into your diary and then clear it from your email inbox. So satisfying doing that. Or use this is a great thing. This is the tickler folder, or the 43 folder system. You need the top drawer of a filing cabinet available, and then you need a load of hanging files, and you take 31, okay, and they represent every day of the month, and then you have another 12 for each month. And so you can see on the picture in front of you, we've got the 28th of the month there. And so it's the morning of the 28th. I go to my folder, I've got my task list here, and this is also what I've got to open. You must remember to open it every day. You know, the system works if you use it. Open that folder and bring out the items that you have necessary for that day, and that could be any documents, or, you know, even when I set myself DIY tasks in the half term, I put the things in there so that they're there ready for me to remember. It's a great system. Let's move on to, yes, this is the best one of all. Do you really need to be doing it? Can you just delete it? Can you dump it? Can you destroy it? Can you just ditch it? If you can, do. Anyone's office looking like this? Hilary's doesn't, I can tell you that much. But some of you might struggle with paperwork. I know it's a very common occurrence. So if you do, not to worry. We can use a very similar system. I'll show you. But first of all, you might want to use this wonderful system just to up the ante, just to shame yourself into actually really thinking, right, I must take some action here. I did this years ago, and it shamed me. And I thought, I can't let this happen anymore. Okay, so what it is you may have a big stack of papers, and what I used to find was that I'd go through the papers, finding the one that I needed, I'd pick it up and then think, oh, this is too big for me to deal with right now. This is I haven't got enough time to do it. I'll put it back and I'll do something easier. Now, the measles system says, right, take a red pen, red marker pen, red ballpoint pen, and just commit for one whole day to every single time you pick up a piece of paper, drawing a red dot at the top right-hand corner of it before you do anything with it. Then at the end of the day, as I found, so many pieces of paper had caught the measles, they'd become infected. And that showed me a little visual snapshot of just what an enormous amount of time I was wasting just picking up paper and putting it down again, losing my thought process and not getting on with things. That should galvanize you into doing something about it. What do we do about it? It's dead easy. We go back to the 4 Ds. We do it. 2 minutes, if it's going to take me 2, you pick up every piece of paper once. And you pick it up, and if it's going to take you 2 minutes or less, you do it. If it's going to take you longer, then it's going to be one of these. Maybe you're going to delegate it. Is it in the right pigeonhole? If it's not, pick it up, walk over with it, or make a very small pile of other stuff that you're going to delegate, and then make sure you go away and get rid of those as soon as possible. Make sure that the right person has got the job. Or can you defer it? Same again, task list, put it in your tickler folder, staple it into your diary. I had a boss with who used that stapling system in her diary, and her diary was the most scruffiest looking thing in the world. It was just spread out. Everyone else on their desks had beautiful, smart, pristine diaries. Hers was all over the place. But you know what? She always knew what she was doing and where she was going. She had it all in there. If you do that, never ever lose your diary though. Okay, and then of course the best one, ditch it if you can. Just think of how many times you've had a to-do list, right? Or a bunch of emails to reply to, a bunch of documents, and do you know what? They didn't actually get done. And then time went by and the time had passed. And so everyone sort of shuffled away from that thing that never actually occurred. There are times that happen there. Well, don't, if you know that that's not that important, that could happen anyway, why not do that now? Get rid of it and move on to the things that really are important and do matter. Okay. Steve Jobs, we all know him, we all know his products. He was able to focus single-mindedly on the iPad and the iPod and the iPhone and all those things because he wasn't thinking about getting dressed on a morning. We can see that from his wardrobe over the years.
Oh, God, I didn't realise that.
He, somewhere in the late 80s, I think it was, he just stuck to a uniform. And maybe it's a branding thing as well, I don't know. But I know the guy from Facebook, what's his face? What's his name? Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
He's always in a grey t-shirt or a grey hoodie. Anyway, it's a t-shirt, jeans and a hoodie. Never has to think about it. So it might sound silly, but if you can automate as many decisions as possible, you can save time and thinking like that. It's an interesting one when you can shave bit. These are all about 1%ers. 1%ers. None of these is the golden bullet, the silver bullet, rather, that's they're going to sort your time management out forever. They're all 1%ers. They're all going to improve what you do gradually and incrementally. This might be one of those. And now I'm going to share with you what my daughter does. This is my little 9-year-old. And she's way ahead of the curve because she does this thing. I think there's a psychological term for it called duration neglect. And what it is it's saving the best till last, because that's how she eats her fish and chips. She has the peas first, gets them out of the way, not her favourite. onto the chips, middling ground, that's fine, quite likes the chips, but then she loves the fish, you know, golden batter wrapped around delicious slices of haddock or cod, and she loves that. And that's saving the best to last. Why am I telling you this? Because there are a number of jobs that you've got that you will really enjoy doing. Try and aim to have those as the last thing you do. This psychological term, duration neglect, what it means is that the last thing you do in a long day is usually, it affects how you feel about a situation. Say you go on holiday and you have 13 days of wonderful sunshine, amazing holiday, but then on the last day it absolutely throws it down, and you hurt your foot on the edge of the door frame, and then your flight's delayed and your baggage is, you know, missing. And so you get home and someone says, "How was your holiday?" and you go, "Oh, well, you know," and you focus on that. That's what we naturally do, a lot of us. This is a little time management trick to help you end the day really well. So it might be that you have got some really good news about a particular child that you want to share with the parent. Don't do that in the morning. Save that for yourself and do it at the end of the day. And so that's saving the best to the last.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I've got a couple of questions, actually. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't know why I can't say it, but I just want to tell everybody here that if you're not yet aware, if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see a place there where there's questions. There's a section you can type some questions in if you want to. So while you're locating that yourself, I'm going to ask Iain my questions, if that's okay. So I've got two. The first one is emotional, I'm afraid, because I'm emotionally attached to work avoidance. And not any old work avoidance, but the frogs.
Yes.
So, you know, what you've been saying has struck a chord with me, and I've got several frogs first thing in the morning, without a doubt. And how do you make yourself, force yourself? What would your strategy be to force yourself to do the frog thing?
Okay, well, when you've got something that you're feeling real resistance about, a great way to do that is to create leverage. Okay, I'll give you an example of something. This is from my personal life, because I wanted to get fitter a little while ago, and so I signed myself up for a triathlon. And I did this years and years ago, and then one of the big problems was I couldn't actually swim. All right, so that was a real problem in an event that has swimming. And so how was I going to get to do this? Because I thought, well, actually, you know what, I could avoid this. I could easily weasel out of this. So I created leverage. I rang the newspaper and said, I can't swim, I've got to learn to swim, and I'm going to raise money for, I'm affiliated with a charity in Tanzania, so we were going to raise money for African orphans.
Right.
So all of a sudden, that big, emotional, impactful story was in the newspaper. I had nowhere to hide. I had to do it.
So it's accountability then, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Make yourself accountable. Right.
So what would work for you? You know, if you...
So you'd need a colleague then that you could be accountable to each other, maybe.
That might work.
Good. Yeah.
Because we're all very good at letting ourselves down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, especially in the education world.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't let someone else down.
Yeah.
So transfer that.
Yeah. Okay. And in your opinion, what's best, paper do lists or digital do lists?
That question comes up a lot, actually. I use digital, but that's not because it's better at all. The best one is the one that you are most comfortable with.
Right.
People who are using paper worry that they should be moving over to digital. People who are doing digital are worried that they'll lose everything and should have a paper one. It doesn't matter. It's how you use the thing.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I love a pen and a piece of paper. I mean, I consider myself to be quite digitally aware. When I have all of my appointments on my PC, but not on my phone because they don't speak to each other that way, and I've set it up like that. And people ask me, I say, well, I think that's fine, but I'll have to go back and check. And in a way, that gives me a space and time to think things through before I make a decision about something, when it's something that I don't know whether I've got the days free, etc., etc.
Yes, yeah.
So pens work for me, but they might not work for everybody.
That's it.
Especially if you work in a college and your diary at college doesn't actually tally with your phone, because it's not always the case.
That's it. So I mean, these things can either hamper you or help you. It depends. I mean, I work at schools where it has to be digital because they're a federation, and they have one central calendar that goes across the schools, across the sites.
Yeah.
So they can't have 5 different paper calendars to match up. So,
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Someone else has said something here about frogs. We've got, I'll just do 20 minutes on something and make some progress. Once started, the initial momentum keeps you going. If it doesn't, you're still closer to your goal. You know, that's a really good point.
It's that's a great idea. We talk sometimes about making progress by okay, so you sit down to do something and all of a sudden you've lost a bag of time.
Yeah.
So it often happens when you do internet research or try making a resource, you lose too much time. But so what we say is actually get a timer, a kitchen timer.
Yeah.
And set it for, say, 20 minutes. It's 25 minutes is called the Pomodoro technique. And you give yourself 25 minutes to work on a task and then 5 minutes as a reward doing something else. And you saw the picture of my office earlier. I use that. I do 25 minutes and then I have 5 minutes on the guitar.
You don't have 5 minutes eating chocolate or something, which would be my reward. Well done, Hilary.
I can't do that every 25 minutes.
But actually, that's a really good point. Thanks for that, Joanne. That's really good. Any other questions, anybody? Because we think we're going to be really, really short of time. But look, I'll just make the point that if you've got anything you want to ask in, you still can. You can type in a question into the area here, and then when we finish, we do get a report, and your questions will be on there. So if you've got anything you want to type up, just let us know. We can answer them. I just want to tell you about what Iain's training sort of normally covers, because we've only looked at half an hour and you haven't actually been face to face. But look at all these things here. You can completely immerse yourself in a whole day of time management if you can spare it. But it's one of those things where you have to do it in order to learn and embed some of the processes and techniques that someone can share with you. And if you do, you can do a half a day, which will help you to refocus some of your efforts, but a whole day will be proper immersion. So if you look at all these topics, that's quite comprehensive. I think you'll agree. If you've got any questions, I see someone's just written something else, but did you want to say something else, Iain?
Not particularly. Okay. I've got lots of things to say, but you see what the questions are.
Other question. I've got a couple of here. A lot of time people copy you into emails and you can't ignore them. You know, you're so right. There's something you have to action. Do you know what? I'll tell you what I do. Now, you might be able to tell me whether this is right or not. I quite often reply and say, thanks for your email. I will be able to look at it properly between 4:30 and 5, and I'll let you know whether I can help you with that or not. Because that's the same as someone walking into your class if you're teaching, or someone walking into your office if you're working and interrupting you. So, yes, it may be that they've copied you in and you can't ignore it, but actually you need to reply almost immediately, in my opinion, and say, I will deal with this at 4:30. At least they're not thinking you're ignoring it. They've heard back from you. I would do that. I would say, this is in my mind, this is my time.
Yes.
And I need to do what I'm doing.
And building on that, building on that as well. What I often do, and this comes up a lot for support staff. So with the business manager the other day, we were looking at a very similar thing. It's about managing expectations. So what I get business managers now to do is to actually have as part of their email signature what their working day involves. So you have something like, I will be attending to emails from 12 o'clock onwards. You can expect to reply within 24 hours.
On an autoresponder?
Not necessarily an autoresponder, because I tend to veer away from that because that creates more email in itself.
Okay.
But just on your email signature, and you'll get those, so the message will get across after a while.
Yeah.
And that means that you know when you can attack the email, and it allows you to legitimately have whatever time it is you've set free.
Yeah. Very good. Look, we've run out of time. We're going to get booted off otherwise, so we're going to have to wrap it up. Thank you very much, Iain, for coming along. It's been fantastic listening to your thoughts and strategies. Just a quick reminder of some more webinars coming up. I've managed to persuade Laura Kirby to come back in. I don't know if you know, but she runs social skills groups for young people with autism. She actually runs a Saturday program, and she recently, at the request of a college, she went in and did some work with their learning support assistants on how you can embed that into some of the work you do yourself. And I've asked her to come along and tell us a bit more about what she does. And the next one then is the 25th of May at 12 noon. Now, I realise that might not be the best time for people, but obviously you can register and still get a recording. So far, Steve Russell hasn't given me a date, but we are going to be looking at emotional resilience with him. And Sarah Townsend's going to be coming back and talking to us about the difference between deaf with a capital D and deaf with a small d. And we'll get a date from her before the end of this term. So if you want to know anything else, you can contact me here. You know mine, info@candobehaviour.co.uk, and Ian's email is ian@iansmithcoaching.co.uk.
Cunningly named Ian Smith.
I know, yes, very original.
Cunning.
Well done. Thanks so much for coming along this afternoon, everyone. Hope to see you again very soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, bye.